I'm going to show you how to build 5 epic path designs. These path designs are super easy to build and can be created with very easy to get resources. Each path has a very different style and would blend in with whatever builds you have around, or just give you some ideas for paths that you can create on your own. So without further ado, let's get into the very first path. Alright, starting off with the very first path, we have this stone one, using a mix of stone bricks, andesite, polished andesite, and normal stone. Around the edges, we have some fence posts with a lantern on top, scattered coarse dirt around the edges, some stone piles with some leaves in between, as well as some short and tall grass and a couple flowers mixed in. You also have a couple buttons on top. So to build this path, you want to make it as rugged as possible. You want to dig out a random space as uneven as possible. You don't want to make this straight. This is best for making curvy and bendy roads. So just dig out the path, making it as weird as possible, as weird as it can get and random. Once you have the shape crafted into the ground and dug out, you can go ahead and grab all 4 types of the stones and place them randomly as equal as possible. You want about 25% for each. So for example, just randomly throw down the polished andesite. Then in the remaining space, go ahead and place down the stone bricks. Place in also the andesite, and then fill in the rest with the stone or the remaining block that you have. This will make the path look interesting. Instead of just being one block, it adds a lot more detail to the path alone. And this change itself is enough to make the path look great. But to make it even better, we're going to go ahead and grab some coarse dirt and add it around the edges of this stone path that we just created. Just break a couple random blocks and replace it with the coarse dirt. Once you're happy, go ahead and grab some spruce fences and lanterns and then randomly place them going from left to right along the path, just to light it up a bit. I like to place these on top of the coarse dirt because it just looks a lot better than just being on the grass. So you can always just place down the coarse dirt underneath if you need, but if it works, you can just put it on the coarse dirt that you placed down earlier. Next up, you want to grab some cobblestone and just kind of plan where you want to put these little stone piles. So I'm going to place in 3 along this path here. Place down another piece or 2 of cobblestone in the ground and above, just to be kind of like broken rock at the bottom of the pile. Then grab yourself stone stairs, and of course, stone slabs. You want to be, once again, as random as possible, placing them up 2 to 3 blocks high. Once that's done, go ahead and grab some stone stairs and randomly place them around these stone hedges, just like this. Alright, now we have our stone hedges in, we're going to go ahead and grab the leaves and place them in between the remaining space. Once again, being as random as possible. Grab yourself some buttons and go ahead and randomly place them down along the path, just to make it look like some stones on the path. Finally, grab yourself some bone meal and fill in the grass with some tall grass, short grass, and of course flowers. And that is how you make this first path design. Moving on to the next path design, we have a very different design here using andesite, gravel, light grey concrete powder, and clay. Now this is the first time I tried using clay and I thought it turned out very well. I really like it. We also have some stone buttons on top. Along the sides, we have some dark oak fences with lanterns on top, as well as a couple leaves in between those, just to add a little bit of color. Instead of using coarse dirt around the side, we've chosen to use podzol, and then on the outsides we have farms. So this road is kind of created to be in between your farm, in between your farmland, or just heading between villages where there might be a lot of farmland. Obviously this is only very small, but I was kind of imagining it stretching out a lot more and having like winding hills of wheat. But let's build this up. So once again, just go ahead and dig out a random area for where the path will follow. The best thing and most important thing I kept in mind when creating these designs is having the roads flexible. You can make them go anywhere and they don't have to follow lines. You can easily build them around your terrain and have them flowing in between the natural terrain. Anyway, once you have the area dug out and planned, you can go ahead and grab your 4 blocks and once again keep it as equal as possible. You want about the same amount of each block. So we're going to start with clay. Just once again, go ahead and randomly place it in the area that you dug out. Do the same with the light grey powder, trying to be as random as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect 25%, but try and keep it as close as possible. Grab your gravel and do the exact same thing. And finally, the andesite to fill in the last remaining blocks. Grab some podzol and, like we did with the coarse dirt over there, break the blocks around the edge where you see fit and replace it with podzol. It just makes it look like a little bit of mud on the side of the path, which makes it feel more real. Next up, grab your dark oak fences and lanterns and go ahead and randomly place them down in sort of L shapes, just like this. You want about 4 or 5 blocks in between each. With the lantern, make sure to place it on the middle fence. Alright, next up, go ahead and grab your leaves, oak and spruce, and randomly place them in between. Make sure they're only 1 block high though. You don't want them 2 block high like we did over there. The reason for 1 block high is so that we can see the wheat fields a little bit easier. Once that's done, go ahead and fill in the rest of the area outside with some wheat to make it look like your path is stretching through wheat fields. You can use other crops, for example, potatoes or carrots if you prefer. I think wheat just looks the best. The way I do this is just randomly breaking a block every couple blocks and filling it in with water, placing an upside down spruce slab, and then tilling the land and filling it in with the seeds. You don't need to make the water placement perfect because this is mostly just going to be for aesthetics, and it doesn't really matter anyway because there's going to be a lot of space if this path goes for a while. Alright, so that is this path created. With all of the paths, you can always switch out the sides for another side. For example, if you prefer this path, but you prefer the stone and leaves on this one, you can always swap it between. The best thing about all of these designs is they are interchangeable. Anyway, moving on to the next one, we have this path here. This is a more rural kind of path, maybe stretching throughout a forest connecting 2 villages together. Obviously, I've placed these trees in, but if you have a forest that you want to have a path through, you can go ahead and just cut through the forest and insert this path. Now, these trees are very close together intentionally. It kind of makes the path feel more rural and excluded from society, but you don't have to have the trees this close together. I just prefer the look of it. Gives a more dark, scary feeling. As with all the other paths, we're going to start by just digging out a random area. Now, grab all 3 blocks this time. We're going to use dripstone blocks, coarse dirt, and rooted dirt. For this one, it's going to be a little bit different. The previous shared the same amount of blocks for each. For this one, the dripstone and the rooted dirt are going to be 25%, with the coarse dirt being about 50%. So you want to go ahead and sparsely place down some dripstone, leaving quite a lot of space. Do the same with the rooted dirt, place them down, once again leaving quite a lot of space so we can fill the rest in with the coarse dirt. Once you're happy with the placement, go ahead and fill in the rest with the coarse dirt, and there we have it, that's the path done. Now for the outsides, we're going to use some spruce fences with lanterns on top. Go ahead and place them down randomly. They don't have to be a certain amount of blocks, just whatever fits with the curve of the path, just like that. Go ahead and grab yourself some oak leaves and birch leaves and place them in between the fences. With this one, make them 1 and 2 blocks high. Grab yourself some rose bushes and blue orchids and place them in between the leaves and fences on the inside of the path. Next up, grab you some saplings. I prefer the spruce look because they're very tall, and just place them down in a line a couple blocks away from the path, leaving a little bit of space so you can create some shrubbery using the bone meal. And finally, in the space between the trees and the path, go ahead and place in some bone meal just to fill it up, make it a little bit more colorful, and add some shrubbery. This once again makes it feel like we're in the wild. And that is this rural path created. The dripstone blocks might be a little bit hard to get, but if you get enough, this really looks nice. They're a little bit shiny as well, which is nice as well. Now, you can do a little extra detail as well using some spruce buttons, like we did with the stone buttons, and just randomly place them over the tops of the path. This will make it look like little bits of dirt sticking out of the ground, but this part is completely up to you. Moving on to the next one, we have more of a built up area where this might be farmland owned by a rich farmer. This is roseberries on the side. Once again, you can put whatever you prefer on the outsides, but let's quickly get this design done. This one uses mud bricks, packed mud, granite, and polished granite. Go ahead once again and create a random dig out for the area that you want the path to follow. Once you're happy, go ahead and place in your mud bricks and packed mud. For this one, we want a little bit more mud than the granite because the granite is very overpowering. So go ahead and grab your mud bricks and randomly place them down, filling in a good chunk of the area. Now, grab your packed mud and do the exact same thing, leaving a couple blocks free in between. Now, as you can see, the remaining blocks is very few. It's mostly mud bricks and packed mud, but we're going to go ahead and grab our granite and polished granite and go ahead and fill in the rest of the space with about 50% of each. If you feel like in a couple spots there's a little bit too much mud, you can go ahead and break a couple blocks and just fill it in with the granite instead. Completely up to you if you prefer to use a little bit more. Now around the edges, we're going to go ahead and break a couple blocks and fill it in using both coarse dirt and podzol. Now to create the outside, we're going to go ahead and grab some lodestones. So we're going to use stone bricks, spruce slabs, spruce trapdoors, and stripped spruce logs. Now there's going to be 2 slabs, then we're going to have a lodestone for the hanging lantern, then we're going to have another 2 slabs, and then a log. Then once again another 2 slabs, and a lodestone, then 2 spruce slabs, and then another spruce log. Now on top of the logs, go ahead and place in a trapdoor, and on top of the lodestones we're going to create the hanging lanterns. Do this by grabbing some stone brick walls, spruce fences, spruce slab, a spruce trapdoor, and a lantern. Place down a stone brick wall, 2 spruce fences, a spruce slab, a spruce trapdoor, and then a lantern, just like that. Very simple but elegant design. Do this on all of the lodestones. Now if you can't get your hands on any lodestones, you can of course just replace this with chiseled stone bricks. That looks good as well, but the lodestones just look a little bit better. Now underneath all of the spruce slabs, we're going to go ahead and grab a stone brick and place them underneath, replacing the grass dirt. This just adds a little bit of extra detail and creates more of a barrier between this and the farm on the outside. Now to create this berry farm, we're going to go ahead and just place berries down in a line, and then the next one will have the spruce fences. Then once again the berries, and then just a line of spruce fences. This is a very simple design but really looks good. I love it. It looks awesome in huge rows and just fills in the space very nicely. And that is how you build the 4th path design. This one is one of my favorites. I'm very happy with how this turned out. And finally, the very last path design is this one here, which is a mix between kind of being a little bit built up, but also a little bit rural. This would work very well in an industrial area, so as you can see, I have some barrels on the side, some TNT, and also some logs. The things you put on the side is completely up to you. If this is going to be near a forest, you can also place down some trees on the outside and have a bunch of logs and barrels. If this is going to be near a mine entrance, you can have TNT and maybe piles of ore. Whatever you put on the sides is up to you. But let's quickly build the design. So we're going to use a mix of tuff, gravel, and cobblestone. Once again, just creating a dugout area as randomly as possible for the design. Go ahead and place down an equal mix of tuff, gravel, and cobblestone. I simply hold my mouse button down and just move my head around to place them as randomly as possible. It works well. Do the same for the gravel, just placing as randomly as possible in between the leftover space. And for the tuff, once again, just fill in the remaining space. And that looks pretty good. Now before we do the outside using all this different type of dirt and granite, we're going to go ahead and add in the little materials on the side. Now I'm going to use very similar to here. I'm going to put a bunch of ores over here, maybe another barrel and TNT just along whatever kind of structures you want to put along the outsides. You can just use trees and leaves if you prefer, but I'm going to give you a couple of these designs that you can add in. So for a bunch of ores, we're going to use coal blocks for the bottom, then some deep slate coal ore topped off with some coal ore on top. Instead of just using regular coal ore, using all 3 makes it a little bit more detailed. Now doing the barrel design again, we're going to use just a bunch of random barrels placed down as randomly as possible. Then we're going to randomly place down some stairs, spruce stairs of course, and then finish that off with just placing in a couple spruce trapdoors, just like that. And to create the log pile, we're going to go ahead and place down some logs, 5 blocks long, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to create 4 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the reason we do 5 is because this is where we're going to put the rails over the top. So go ahead and place them on the corners just like that, and then on the outsides just randomly place down some extra, because some of them are going to be a little bit longer than others. Now grab some spruce stairs, spruce trapdoors, and spruce slabs and just place them along just to make it look a little bit more random. Remember, these are freshly chopped trees, so they're going to be a little bit weird. Going to have little branches sticking out of them and everything. And we'll create another TNT pile. So just randomly placing down some TNT, adding some rails over the edges, and then on the topmost block, we're going to place spruce signs all the way around the top, just like that. Now in the spaces between the new piles that we created, we're going to just go ahead and place in some oak leaves, just to make it feel a little bit more green, because it's very dark before. And then replacing the grass with a mix of coarse dirt, rooted dirt, and granite. Just go ahead and delete all the grass blocks in between the outside and the path and replace them with a healthy mix, equal mix of course, of all 3 blocks. Just same as the path, making it as random as possible. And that is how you build all 5 custom designed paths. Like I said, you can change the outsides of each of them or mix and match whatever you prefer. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and leave a comment of what kind of paths or builds you want to see next. I'll see you in the next one.